So in this 2002 Corolla, we're doing a little mini series on repairing a lot of the parts from brakes to engine tune-up, as well as interior headliner. What you see here is this new set of new rear wheel bearings for the Corolla. I got this on Amazon as the set for less than $100, which is, in my book, it's pretty cheap. Obviously, I'm not too familiar with the brand, but I've heard great things on the reviews, so I'm going to go with it because while we're doing the rear drums, it's just so easy to change out these wheel bearings that I might as well do it while I'm there. As well as when I was actually driving at low RPMs, I heard that some type of like whining noise in the rear, and the wheel was a little bit shaky. Could have been a bunch of other things, but while I'm in there, I'm gonna go ahead and change out these rear wheel bearings. And I wanted to show you guys what they look like. This is the part number for the 2002 Corolla. It's BHA 54169. We're gonna double check the fitment when we actually get the old wheel bearing off, but this is pretty much what you get when you actually buy it. It comes together in this box. There's a little installation card, but let me go ahead and open this up and just show you guys what it looks like. This is a brand new wheel bearing, 4-lug, and you could see that it looks pretty good. We'll see how it performs, but one of the things about this wheel bearing that I like, and it's much different from the other ones I've had a Subaru wheel bearing, and while you do have to bolt it on by the 4 bolts, you actually bolt it on from the inside of the Corolla. So it has these big gigantic holes that you're moving across, and that allows you to tighten all the bolts or loosen all the bolts. So this is going to be a really easy job while we're doing the rear brakes, but I'm going to show you guys step by step, but we just wanted to show you guys the part up close. So right over here, you can see this is the rear drum brake system. First thing you want to do is take off the e-brake, because the e-brake or the parking brake puts a little pressure on it. Once you get that released, you want to take off this drum itself. We're going to do the same thing we did for the front. If you watch my other video on how to change your front brake pads, there's this little plastic ring, and you just pop it right off. And if you have trouble taking it off, then you're going to need some M8 by 1.25 pitch bolts, screws. And you basically screw it in there, and it's going to go all the way through. As you can see, it's already going through. So depending on the screws that you get, you're going to have to get the socket that allows you to take it out. Mine's a 14mm socket. So I'll do that right now. And what you'll start to see as I screw these screws in, it's going to be pushing against the wheel bearing, pushing this drum outwards, so these lugs will get smaller and smaller. So we're going to take a little break and show you guys what's happening. You're going to see the drum separating from this back plate here, and you can see that the lug nuts are starting to get smaller. So that it's what we're doing is working. It's pushing out this existing drum off of this rear wheel bearing. All right, we have this little electric ratchet, and we're just going to take it out real quick. So basically, you stick it through the hole, make sure it gets on the bolt itself, and we're just going to loosen it out. We've already basically broken it loose with the breaker bar, so this is just taken out quickly. That's one. This is the bottom. Gotta work on the bottom right. So you can see the bolts came out pretty freely. And all you have to do at this point is just wiggle the wheel bearing out. And it comes out like that. You can see a little bit of wheel bearing grease there, which is perfectly fine. We're just gonna wipe it down and put the new one in. So while we're here, we're gonna compare the new TQR wheel bearing. We're gonna take it out real quick. From a distance from the back side, the mounting plate is exactly the same. Let me actually put it above just to compare. And it is. And you can see on the sides, they look identical, 4 lugs. Everything looks to be as intended. So all I'm going to do now is just put this one back. It fits in really nicely. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of thread locker on the bolts and we'll put it back. We're just going to tighten everything at this point. All right, so now that I have it tightened it on, I'm going to torque it down to spec. My manual says 59 foot-pounds per bolt. And so I'm going to set it here at 59 foot-pounds. And once it locks in place, I'm going to start torquing in a crosshatch pattern. I'll start for the top left side. And I'll work my way to the bottom right. And then I will now move over to the top right. And then last but not least, we're going to do the bottom left. All right, everything's pulled it down to 59 foot-pounds, and that's pretty much the installation of the rear wheel bearing. We're going to quickly do the other side, but I also have to put back the rear brakes. So let's go ahead and do that, and more to come. So now I'm working on the other side. This is the driver's side rear wheel bearing. And all I'm doing is just taking off the 4 bolts as seen here with the breaker bar. And what you're noticing is I actually don't have to take off the brake shoes. I just took it off on the other one because I was doing a brake job anyways. But this one I tried it without. And you can see here that at no point do I need to actually do anything with the brake shoes unless you're replacing it yourself. And now I'm just going to use electric socket. I'm just kind of removing and backing out those bolts as you see here. In a second, you're going to see me just remove the wheel bearing without even touching the brake shoes at all. And you can just install it back in the same way you took it off. Once removed, I'm going to install the new wheel bearing. As you can see here, all I'm doing is just kind of lining it up, just making sure the bolts and the wheel bearing fits nicely in. I'm putting a little bit of Loctite on the existing bolts to prevent the vibration from loosening these bolts at a later time. And then I'm just kind of hand torquing each one, making sure I don't cross thread. So here you just want to make sure you're tightening it at a crosshatch pattern. It'll make sure it seats in nicely. And then finally, you're just going to tighten everything down at 59 foot-pounds as per manual. And that's it. Thanks for watching and have a good one.